feedback fosters growth. You guys, without feedback, we cannot grow. We just do more of what we have always done. Without feedback, we cannot grow. We just do more of what we've always done. And I'm pretty sure that that is the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So the more feedback we can get, and the more we can view it as neutral and as growth, especially if that's how you enter into it and asking for it, right? The more you can say, yeah, this doesn't feel great, doesn't have to feel great. Most things that are good in life don't feel great, right? Like you do scary things, and those are the things that make you typically feel the best and the most proud. So of course, feedback may not feel great, but it's going to give you the most growth. So thinking of feedback as a way to foster growth, and also feedback as a responsibility. So when you think of it from, if you're raising children or you're in a partnership, if you want that child to grow, if you want that relationship to grow, you not giving feedback of how they could get better in school, at sports, with conversations, putting themselves out there, taking risks, then you're not doing them a favor. It's actually one of the biggest disservices is to not give feedback where you know feedback could improve someone's life. So that is our role as human beings, is to give each other feedback. Or you guys, we could just be on this earth alone. Like we wouldn't need each other, but we desperately need each other. And feedback is one of the most important things that we can do for each other. It's how we grow. I promise you, anyone that you look at, Brendan, anyone on here, anybody that you're looking up to or looking at their career and saying that you want to do that, they have made feedback a core value in their lives. It doesn't mean they like it. It means they've made it a core value in their lives. Just like doesn't mean I love going to the gym every day, but I've made fitness a core value in my life because of the result that it gives me and the things that it keeps out of my life, right? And the things that it prevents and the things that I don't have to worry about, or the stress that it relieves. And feedback is just like working out. You give and get feedback regularly, and you are literally not going to feel stress. You're not going to feel this. Even sickness can come from not giving feedback, right? Have you ever had something literally eat you alive because you have feedback that you need to give and it's making you ill on a daily basis? So the more that we can start practicing it and strengthening that muscle, just like at the gym and doing a workout, the more you're going to just look at it as a more neutral thing. Like even now when I'm thinking about it, I don't love it, but bring it. You know, I'm like, okay, I don't maybe love hearing that I said something or did something or it came off a certain way, but please tell me so I can improve it, because I don't want to keep going out in the world like that, because I think the pain of what you're continuing to do without knowing it and no one's brought it to your attention is worse than the pain of someone bringing it to your attention, you fixing it and getting to go through life in a much more beautiful, graceful, loving way where people perceive you differently in a positive way, right? So it's a responsibility. It's a gift rather than a critique, because it's deepening, strengthening anything that you are working on. And really think of feedback. I think feedback can sound negative, but if you think of feedback as, and you can even insert these words as you're giving them, guidance, insights, and advice. Like guidance, insights, and advice. How beautiful, right? To be able to say that, like, hey, I have some guidance that I want to give you around this that I noticed. Like that feels a little less maybe like, oh, and it just depends on who the person is that you're talking to. Maybe some people love that straightforward, like give it to me straight, right between the eyes. And some people on your team or in your life might need a little bit more of like, okay, we're just going to soften it just a touch, even though we do want to start making this a neutral thing and make it okay. But maybe this is where we're going to start. I want to talk about the feedback loop. So the feedback loop is you set the expectation, right? You create the plan and a clear agreement of responsibility for all parties involved. So it's like, okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's the responsibility that you're going to do. Do you agree to that? Does that feel good? Does this feel like something you can do? All right, here's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to try to explain and give as much detail as I possibly can without knowing all of the data, right? Because we're not going to know all of the data. So there's a lot of room for error in there. But as a leader, you have to also know that. So you have to, I think it's really important to express to your team or to your partner or to your friends, like, hey, we're not going to all get this right. Like that's part of setting the expectation, right? To say, we're not going to all get this right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go out and we're going to do our best. And then we're going to assess how we did. So let's get back to the feedback loop. So it's set the expectation, create the plan, create that clear agreement of responsibility, but also say, hey, here we go with this limited amount of data. Here's what we're going to do. And you move forward and then you execute. So once you execute, you come back and you assess what worked and what didn't, and where your direction. This is very important because if you're giving feedback, you also need to make sure that you can receive it and that you are also assessing it yourself and you're receiving it from others. So assess what worked and didn't work, where your direction and guidance could have been better. Take those notes and apply them to the next time that you execute. Then assess what worked and didn't work, where the execution could have been better. And then decide what you're going to move forward, what lesson you're going to move forward with. Then decide what new actions will be taken, create the new plan from the data that you have, discuss the new roles and responsibilities, and then execute again. So when I say it like that, it's like no real emotion, right? So it's like, okay, this makes sense that we're going to do the best that we can, execute, and discuss what could improve. I think what happens is when there's not clear agreements or clear direction, or a clear expectation that, hey, we're going to talk about what happens after every project, or we're going to do regular check-ins. We're going to do regular assessments for everyone. Do you see how if that expectation is not there, things can feel jarring to the system, where some of you said, what did I do wrong? Oh my gosh. Where really it's like, how can I improve? And trust me, that is totally how I have felt, because I haven't been in communities where that expectation or that conversation has been fostered. So even within my friendships, we have now, when I create new female friendships, a lot of them are based on, hey, I want to improve. Like, I don't want friends who ghost on me in a year or 2 years because they never told me that I was doing something that irritated them. Like, from here on out, I want friendships who are really honest, obviously in a loving way, about how can I be a better friend? And also, here's the type of friend that I know I can be. So I'm not the type of friend who's going to text you all the time. Like, it's just not who I am. But when you really need something, or you need a phone call, or if you need a speaker or something to really help you out, like, I'm going to be that person for you. So there's like clear agreements and expectations from the beginning. And when I don't have those, I'm like, hey, could we have a conversation where we could kind of sit down and just clarify what our expectations are out of this relationship, so that I can know where I can improve, and then I can really share where maybe a past story is coming in and making me feel a certain way about our relationship. So I hope that that also helps with where you're at within, the feedback loop of, whether that's at work or whether that is in friendships, like using that feedback loop and saying, hey, we're about to go do this project. Let's talk about what this feedback loop should look like. Like, let's talk about the process of how this is going to look amongst the conversation of our team.
This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.